Last week, I was telling you that I'm the proud mother of 5 girls and 1 son. And my little boy, Yoel, he's 3 years old, has really, over the past few months, been throwing me for a loop. So I think up until my son turned 3 a few months ago, I really felt like I was being, for girls and for very little boys, I was a great mother. I was even thinking maybe I should teach a parenting class. I was just doing so well. I was so great at it. And recently, I've been finding mothering my son to be a very humbling experience. He's just become a very boyish, energetic boy. And I've been finding it to be quite a humbling experience and quite a difficult experience. In fact, just this past week, I signed up for a year-long parenting course with Mrs. Dina Friedman. It started last week, and it looks, by the way, like it's going to be amazing. I listened to some of the demo classes. She just sounds brilliant, and I think it's really, really going to be helpful. So if any of you are interested in joining, it started last week, and you can join now for the year-long course. You can Google the name Dina Friedman, or email me, and I'll send you the details to sign up. But this past week, I got in response to last week's pep talk about having difficulties with Yoel, a mother named Chaya Cohen from Ramat Shlomo, she sent me the most wonderful, wonderful letter. She sent me a letter of Sipurei Chizuk, encouraging stories, inspirational stories about raising rambunctious boys. So I found this letter immensely, immensely helpful and inspiring, and I want to share the stories within it with you. So the first story she tells, the first story she recounted was a story about the Chazon Ish. So the Chazon Ish, who was a very, very, very great rabbi living in Bnei Brak, a father brought his boyish boy, his sort of wild boy, to the Chazon Ish and says, the Chazon Ish, please give me a blessing that my son will stop being so wild. He's driving us crazy. He's driving his mother and me crazy. He's so wild. So the Chazon Ish looked at the father and looked at the son, and instead of giving the son a blessing that he wouldn't be wild, he gave the son an old chair. And he said, here, show me how you can break this chair. And he wouldn't let the son go until the son had just broken the chair into little pieces. Okay, that's the end of the story. Basically, it sounds sort of like the Chazon Ish encouraging this little boy to keep on being wild. The next story is another story about sort of a similar story about a very, very great rabbi named Harav Chaim Brim, who passed away a few years ago and was a very, very great rabbi in Rosh Yeshiva. And it's another story about a father who came from Bnei Brak to Jerusalem in order to get a blessing again from Rabbi Brim to give a blessing to his son that his son shouldn't be so wild. So Rabbi Brim, when the father asked for the blessing, Rabbi Brim, all of a sudden he looked very upset. And he said, God forbid. He said, I'm not going to give you a blessing that your son should have any less energy than he has now. The fact that your son has a lot of energy, that's an amazing, amazing thing. He said, I will give your son a blessing that he should use all of this tremendous amount of energy that he has for good things. For Torah and mitzvot and for good things. But God forbid, I'm not going to ask I'm not going to give a blessing that he should have less energy. It's great that he has so much energy. Okay, so the next story is that Chaya Cohen, who wrote the letter, she was once speaking with the Rebbetzin of a very, very important rabbi in Jerusalem. And the Rebbetzin was sort of reminiscing about the years when she had when Chaya spoke with her, the Rebbetzin many years before had married off all of her children. But she was telling Chaya that she had one son who had her tearing her hair out. This son was driving her crazy. And it was just she just had no idea what to do with him, and he was just all over the place and very, very wild. And the Rebbetzin told Chaya, said, and now that boy, says, I get the most nachas from that boy of all of my children. And that boy now, he's a very, very important rabbi and a very big posek, and he has a tremendous amount of energy for learning Torah and for doing good deeds, and he does as much in one day as most people do in a week. So again, the story is the same thing. Because when they're little kids and they're running all over the place and we can't control them, but then when they grow up and they have a tremendous, then if we do things right as mothers, then they can use this energy, this tremendous amount of energy, for good things. Okay? Another mother told Chaya, that a mother with a family full of boys, said that told Chaya that generally, as a general rule, the boys who have the most energy are the ones who grow up to be great people. I guess for the same reason. Okay? So then Chaya wrote to me. Chaya's got a bunch of boys. So she wrote to me, she said, another thing to keep in mind is that what your son is doing at this stage is very normal. It's normal for boys to hit and then to wrestle and to fight and act up and to throw things and to act like rambunctious boys. That's normal. It's not pleasant for the mother, but at least it helps to know that it's normal. And Chaya also, she reminded me of a story, and this is a story that once it was in a video that I made a few years ago of Rebbetzin Judy Brat. And Judy had told the following story. It's a story about a conversation she had many, many years ago with Rav Shlomo Karlibach. And Rav Shlomo had asked Rebbetzin Brat, had asked her how things are going with her son. So her oldest son at that time, who actually in real life just became a father, was a wonderful, wonderful guy. So he said, so Rav Shlomo said, so how are things going with your little boy, with your 3-year-old? And Rebbetzin Brat looked very frazzled and said, he is really trying my patience. And Rav Shlomo smiled and said, he's not trying your patience, Judy. He is perfecting your patience. It's a great story. So I just want to conclude with a blessing for all of you and for all of me, because I really need a blessing on this one. That all of us mothers of boyish, rambunctious boys, that we should have the wisdom to be able, the wisdom and the strength to be able to channel all of this wonderful energy. So that our boys should grow up to learn knowing how to channel their energy, all their energy, into good things, into doing good deeds, into learning Torah, into being good people, and then all of us should remember that we should remember that these boys, no matter how much their wildness, how much it's trying for us, in fact they're really perfecting us, and they're perfecting our patience. I want to bless all of you with an amazing, amazing week.